again something that wouldn't have occurred to anybody.
No, it's great. It's opened up all kinds of creative possibilities.
If you use it properly, but like you say, for achieving the real.
Well, it's so much easier for me. I can 1 minute to 2 o'clock go to my computer. And it's true. Travel time is a waste. On the other hand, I think it's super healthy to get out of the house. Anyway, it's interesting, isn't it? You know Shelley, right?
Yeah.
We had a concert band gig with the Encore band last week where we played this Chuck Mangione Feels So Good.
Oh yeah.
You should have heard him doing the slap bass. Bang, 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 bang. He was having
last night we had percussion and show.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. We had fun here on Fridays.
Well, I played Friday nights every other week for years. I hope he'll invite me one day.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
It's such a lovely service and short. You know that one we did last time where I missed the entry? I think it's better if you do the entry just because I may not be clued in. I'm not familiar enough with this music yet. It was the one
I don't think we're doing that today.
Baruch She'amar.
Where's your ukulele?
Okay, I'll do
My ukuleles are in their cases at home. Why don't you rejoin our group this year, Jeff? Rejoin the group again.
I really will. When I saw my house and my life settled down there, that was one of my top priorities. I still have my love.
Or just come and sing. I'm encouraging people to just come and sing too.
Sing?
Just to come
Here?
and sing. Yeah.
Oh no, we're doing that.
Yeah.
I'm looking for somewhere. Is there anywhere where there are two music pieces?
I go, this is a segue
I'm planning a special
Could be after
Israel
this.
program.
before Usherate.
Instead of this English.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's too much to sing.
All right, that's what I'll do.
And so why not just come and sing and not play the ukulele? Because I could use more singing along with the ukuleles. And I could just use more men's voices.
During the Torah service, for the rabbi to speak from,
Okay, I'll let you know.
because we didn't want them at the same, speaking from the same.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. This Shabbat takes a special name, Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of comfort. We take comfort in Shabbat itself and the rest that it brings. We take comfort in one another and being together in sacred community. We take comfort in the melodies of our prayers. We take comfort in this sacred space and the sacred spaces that some are creating right now in their homes. So welcome everyone who's joined us here at Holy Blossom Temple, some who are back after not being here for a long time. Special welcome to you. Those who are here for the first time, a special welcome to you. And those who are joining us through the live stream, we are so glad you're with us as well, increasing the essence of our prayers. Let's begin our service on page 149. For those in the Mishkan, you can find the prayer book tucked in the seat in front of you. Those at home, there's a link that will bring you to Sidur Pirchei Kodesh, page 149.
מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל. ואני ברוב חסדך אבוא ביתך אשתחווה על קודשך ביראתך. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל. אדוני אהבתי מאוד ביתך ומקום משכן כבודך, ואני אשתחווה ואכרע אברך לפני אדוני עושי, ואני תפילתי לך אדוני רצון. אלוהים ברוב חסדך ענני באמת אישך. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו לעסוק בדברי תורה.
Adonai, our God, make the words of your Torah sweet in our mouths and in the mouths of your people Israel, so that we and our children shall come to know your name and study Torah for its own sake. Praised are you, Adonai, teacher of Torah to your people Israel. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples by giving us your Torah. Praised are you, Adonai, giver of Torah.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
יהי רצון.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך.
יהי רצון.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
יהי רצון. Elu devarim she'en lahem shi'ur. These are the obligations without measure, whose reward too is without measure, in this world and in the world to come. Kibud av va'em, to honor father and mother. Ugmilut chasadim, to act responsibly one to the other. V'hashkamat beit hamidrash shacharit va'arvit, to hasten to the house of study both morning and evening. V'hachnasat orchim,
To welcome the stranger,
uvikur cholim,
to visit the sick,
v'hachnasat kala,
to rejoice with bride and groom,
ulevayat hamet,
to accompany the dead to the grave,
v'iyun tefillah,
to pray with sincerity,
v'hava'at shalom ben adam lachavero,
to make peace between one and another.
v'talmud Torah keneged kulam.
But the study of Torah
Rivals them all.
אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה טהורה היא אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה טהורה היא אתה ורעת אתה יצרת אתה נפחת בי ואתה משמרה בקרבי כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי מודה אני לפניך אדוני אלוהי ואלוהי אבותיי ריבון כל המעשים האדון כל הנשמות ברוך ברוך אתה אדוני אשר בידו נפש כל חי ורוח כל בשר איש אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה טהורה היא אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה טהורה היא ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לשכבי מינה להבחין בין יום ובין לילה ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בן חורין ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני כרצונו ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם פוקח עברים ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מלביש הרומים ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מתיר אסורים ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם זוקף כפופים ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם רוקע הארץ על המים ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה לי כל צורכי ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המכין מצעדי גבר ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוזר ישראל בגבורה ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוטר ישראל בתפארה ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם הנותן לאויב כוח ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המעביר שינה מעיני ומדמעה מעפעפיי
Sovereign of all the worlds, not in reliance upon the righteousness of our deeds do we place our longings before you. We look instead to your abundant mercy. For what are we, what is our life, and what our faithfulness? What is our goodness, and what our vaunted strength? What shall we say in your presence, Adonai our God, and God of all ages? Are not all the conquerors as nothing before you, and those of renown as though they had not been, the learned as if they had no knowledge, and the wise as if without understanding? Many of our works are vain, and our days pass away like a shadow. Since all our achievements are insubstantial as mist, how dare we look upon ourselves as higher than the beasts? Yet, despite all our frailty, we are your people, bound to your covenant and called to your service. We therefore thank and praise you and proclaim the holiness of your name. Ashrenu, matov chalkenu, umanaim goralenu, umayafa Yerushatenu.
ברוך שאמר והיה עולם, ברוך הוא, ברוך עושה בראשית, ברוך אומר ועושה, ברוך חוזר ומקיים, ברוך מרחם על הארץ, ברוך מרחם על הבריות, ברוך משלם שכר טוב לרעיו, ברוך חי לעד וקיים לנצח, ברוך פודה ומציל, ברוך שמו.
With songs of praise we will glorify you. We will speak your name and proclaim your sovereignty. For you are our ruler, the only one, the life of the universe. Praised are you, Adonai, the sovereign God who exalted with songs of praise.
הודו לאדוני כי טוב כי לעולם חסדו, הודו לאלוהי האלוהים כי לעולם חסדו, לעולם חסדו. הודו לאדוני האדונים כי לעולם חסדו, לעושה נפלאות גדולות לבדו כי לעולם חסדו, לעולם חסדו. כי לעולם חסדו, כי לעולם חסדו, לעושה השמיים בתבונה, כי לעולם חסדו, לעולם חסדו. כי לעולם חסדו, כי לעולם חסדו, לרוקה הארץ על המים, כי לעולם חסדו, לעולם חסדו, לעושה אורים גדולים, כי לעולם חסדו, את השמש לממשלת ביום, כי לעולם חסדו, את הירח וכוכבים לממשלות בלילה, כי לעולם חסדו, למכה מלכים גדולים, כי לעולם חסדו, ונתן ארצם לנחלה, כי לעולם חסדו, נחלה לישראל עבדו, כי לעולם חסדו, לעולם חסדו. כי לעולם חסדו, כי לעולם חסדו, נותן לחם לכל בשר, כי לעולם חסדו, לעולם חסדו. כי לעולם חסדו, כי לעולם חסדו, הודו לאל השמיים, כי לעולם חסדו, לעולם חסדו. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להכיר בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה קלו מעשיך אדוני, בעולם מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
An excerpt of a morning song, a morning prayer by John O'Donohue. All that is eternal in me welcomes the wonder of this day. The field of brightness it creates, offering time for each thing to arise and illuminate. I place on the altar of dawn the quiet loyalty of breath, the tent of thought where I take shelter, waves of desire I am sure to, and all beauty drawn to the eye. May I have the courage this day to live the life that I would love, to postpone my dream no longer, but to do at last what I came here for, and waste my heart on fear no more. Ashrei, page 160.
אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך סלה.
אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו.
תהילה לדוד ארוממך אלוהי המלך, ועברך שמך לעולם ועד.
בכל יום אברכך, וללה שמך לעולם ועד.
גדול אדוני מולל מאוד, ולגדולתו אין חקר.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו.
הדר כבוד הודך, ודברי נפלותיך עשיך.
ועזו זרועותיך יאמרו, וגדולתך אספרנה.
זכר אב טובך יביעו, וצדקתך ירננו.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדול חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל, ורחמיו על כל מעשיו.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, וגבורתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
עיני כל אליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו.
פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיע.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל רשעים ישמיע.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פיו, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד.
ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה.
הללויה, 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 הללויה. הללויה אל בקודשו, הללויה ברקיע עוזו, הללויה בגבורותיו, הללויה כרוב גודלו. הללויה, 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 Hallelujah, beteka shofar. Hallelujah, benever v'chinor. Hallelujah, betov u'machol. Hallelujah, beminim ve'ugav. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, betziltele shama. Hallelujah, betziltele trua. Kol hanshama te hallelujah. Kol hanshama te hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Let every living soul praise your name, Adonai our God, and let every breath glorify your majesty forever and ever. Across the reaches of time and space, you are God. We have no ruler but you. God of all that has been and all that is yet to be, God of all creation, sovereign of all generations, all praise to you. You guide the world with steadfast love, your creatures with tender mercy. You neither slumber nor sleep. You awaken the sleeping and arouse the dormant. You give voice to the silenced and freedom to the captive. You lift up the fallen and raise the oppressed. To you alone we give thanks. Though our mouths should overflow with song as the sea, our tongues with melody as the roaring waves, our lips with praise as the heavens' wide expanse. And though our eyes were to shine as the sun and the moon, our arms extend like eagle's wings, our feet speed swiftly as deer, still we could not fully thank you, Adonai our God and God of all ages, or praise your name enough for the abounding goodness you have bestowed upon our ancestors and on us.
Ha'el b'tatzumot uzecha, ha'gadol b'chvod shemecha, ha'gibor l'netzach v'hanorah b'noratecha, ha'melech ha'yoshev al kisei ram v'nisa, shochen arem marom, v'kadosh shemo, v'chatuv ranenu tzadikim baronai, al-yasharim, Nava tehila, befi sharim tithalal, u'b'divrei tzadikim titbarach, u'v'rashon chasidim titromam, u'v'kerev kiroshim titkadash, u'makalor revivor, amcha beit Yisrael, berina yitpar shimcha malkeinu, bechol dor vador, ishtabach shimcha le'ad malkeinu, ha'el hamelech hagadol v'hakadosh, bashamayim uva'aretz baruch atah Adonai, El Melech Gadol Batishpachor, El Hod Hod Adon Aniflaor, Abocher B'shirei Zimra, Melech Elchei Ha'olamim, Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabba, v'yalemad yivrak cherutei v'yamlich malchutei, mechaychon v'yomechon v'chay l'chol beit Yisrael, b'hagala v'zman kariv v'yimeru amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'amei almaya. Parach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechmata damiran v'alma v'yimeru Amen. Ein, 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 ein. Ein, 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 ein. Ein, 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 ein. Ein, 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 המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד יין ein 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 Ein, 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 ein. Ein, 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 ein. Ein, 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 ein.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. All will thank you, all will praise you, all will declare nothing is as holy as Adonai. All will exalt you who gives everything form, Selah. You are the God who daily opens the doors of the eastern gates and unlocks the windows of the firmament. You bring out sun and moon from their hiding places and illuminate all the world and its inhabitants, created by your compassion. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barachamim. Uvtuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Page 169. Let all praise you, our deliverer, for the excellence of your handiwork, and for the radiant lights you have made. Let them glorify you, Selah. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, v'nizkeh chulanu mehera le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai, yotzer ha'me'orot. Abounding is your love, Adonai our God, and great is your compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, our ancestors, were secure in your presence, and you taught them the laws of life. Be gracious now to us and teach us. Avinu Av Harachaman, have compassion upon us, inspire us to know and understand, to listen, learn, and teach, to observe and uphold with love all the teachings of your Torah.
והעריננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחל לבבנו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש, ולא נבוש, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא פתחנו נגילה, נגילה, ונשמחה נגילה, נגילה, בישועתך. כי אל הפועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע ויאמר, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לדודפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
The origin of the words we just offered up, Shema Yisrael and Ve'ahavta, the origin is this week's Torah portion, Parashat Ve'et Hanan. And some ask, what is it to love God? Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha. The answer is to pray. Nowhere in the Torah is it written, thou shalt pray, but here, where the imperative is to love God, that is, according to the ancient rabbis, the imperative to pray. And Maimonides says, how do you love God? By acting like someone who is lovesick, someone who is constantly serenading the one he loves, someone who is constantly following around like a lovesick puppy, the one she loves. And so I'd like to call attention to the footnote at the bottom of page 171, the teaching about how to express this love for God. Abaye used to say, let love for God be spread through you. If a person studies and enables others to do so, if one is decent and trustworthy in business, what do people say about that person? Have you seen the behavior of so-and-so who lives by Torah? How beautiful, what a fine person. Thus Isaiah taught, you are my servant Israel, I will be glorified through you. So whether we express our love for God through prayer, whether we express our love to God by following after God wherever we go through our days, through our lives, let it be through loving words and loving deeds that are noticed and call attention to the divine. Page 174.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot oseh feleh nora tehilot oseh feleh שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך לשפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נרר בקודש טוב ומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדחנו עמך, יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש קדוש ישראל. יאללה 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 ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי אגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי עבור, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומרומלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וכרזה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו מלכנו, מושיענו וכוי ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיר גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
continue with the private prayers which we write for ourselves this day, together with the prayers written by our ancestors through page 185.
מודים אנחנו לך, מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, שאתה הוא אלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. מודים אנחנו לך, צור חיינו מגן אישנו, צור חיינו מגן אישנו, אתה הוא, אתה הוא, אתה הוא לדור ודור, אתה הוא, אתה הוא, אתה הוא לדור ודור. מודים אנחנו לך, מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, שאתה הוא אלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד.
Okay, firstly, that was beautiful. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
With those words of Modim Anachnu Lach, I am grateful before you in our minds and in our hearts, as the Torah portion this week says, B'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha. Let's take a moment of gratitude with the Torah in our midst and with each other to say hello and to, before we welcome the Torah, welcome each other, especially if you have not been here in too long.
Shabbat shalom. Good to see you. Thank you. It's great to be back. Very good. Thank you. My son is here. Yes. Yes. His partner, Karina. I'm so pleased. I can't tell you.
Our Torah service begins on page 186.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשיך מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור אדוני מלך Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch, leolam vaed. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. Avcharachamim היטיבה ברצונך את ציון, תבנה חומות ירושלים, כי בך לבד בטחנו, מלך ארם ונישא, אדון עולמים. ויהי בנשוא הארון ויאמר משה קומה אדוני ויפוצו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך כי מציון תצא תורה כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני בירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה תורה ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו שמע ישראל Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai Iti, Uneromema Shemo יחדיו לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד כי יכול בשמיים ובארץ כי יכול בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והעמיד נעשה לכל ראש רוממו אדוני רוממו רוממו אדוני רוממו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אלוהינו רוממו רוממו אדוני רוממו רוממו אדוני רוממו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אלוהינו רוממו והשתחוו להר קודשו, והשתחוו להר קודשו, והשתחוו להר קודשו, והשתחוו להר קודשו, אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 lai.
In what feels like a lifetime ago, many years ago on this Shabbat, our Torah portion this week, Ve'et Hanan, took on a special place in my heart as it became the parasha that marked my bat mitzvah. I've been thinking about that moment a lot these last few days, because if you had told the younger version of myself what our future would look like, that she would be standing here with all of you on this Shabbat, she would never have believed you. I was also thinking about it because in Va'et Hanan, Moses is preparing in his own way for a future that he couldn't imagine. On the edge of the promised land, so close and yet so far to finishing the wilderness journey, Moses is aware that he will die before crossing the river Jordan with the people. He instead delivers a final series of speeches, much of it being a retelling of the wanderings throughout the desert, and importantly, a recount of the laws and statutes that the Israelites are implored to follow once they are over the border. Deuteronomy does mean second telling, after all. And yet, despite being inscribed right there on the scroll in black ink on white parchment, and despite having heard these words before back in the book of Exodus, the 10 Commandments, which we will read today, are shrouded in mystery. In the Midrash Tanhuma, for example, the giving of the 10 Commandments is linked to the glory and the grandeur of Psalm 29, which we recite often in our Kabbalat Shabbat service on Friday evenings, with its captivating imagery of thunder and lightning and trembling earth and roaring waves. We also notice the subtle differences between the first repetition of the commandments in Exodus and the second repetition now in Deuteronomy, the most famous being of how we are commanded to observe Shamor, the Shabbat, compared to Zachor, to remember the Shabbat day previously. Rashi will teach us that this is because both words were uttered as the same word, with the same divine breath, and heard by the Israelites at the same time. In other words, all possibilities remain plausible, and the mystery and magic continue. We cannot know our future, and instead can only be guided by the principles that have shaped us. And hopefully this leads to something better, although inevitably different than we could have ever envisioned. May we all learn to revel in the mystery. Our Torah reading can be found in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 6 on page 1169. We have Pavle Levkovic reading for us, Lev ben Pinchas. And for our first Aliyah, we have Susan Cohen, Shulamit bat Shmuel Nusan v'Goda la Aliyah. For those following our Torah blessings, they can be found on page 189. So page 1196 in our Platt Torah commentaries.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim מבית עבדים.
Please rise.
לא יהיה לך אלוהים אחרים על פניי. לא תעשה לך פסל כל תמונה אשר בשמיים ממעל ואשר בארץ מתחת ואשר במים מתחת לארץ. לא תשתחווה להם ולא תעבדהם כי אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך אלקנה פוקד עוון אבות על בנים ועל שילשים ועל רבעים לשונאי ועושה חסד לאלפים לאוהבי ולשומרי מצוותי. לא תישא את שם אדוני אלוהיך לשווא, כי לא ינקה אדוני את אשר יישא את שמו לשווא.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
And I'll take some ownership for that and apologize that I should have asked everybody to rise before we read the Ten Commandments in public, as is our custom. Anyway. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu hu yivarech et Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. Blessed are you, O God, who blessed our ancestors in honor of Torah, in honor of our Shabbat. Susan just walked away, but I wanted to acknowledge her wonderful service to our community as one of our daily minyan leaders. So we are so blessed in this community that there is a need and a want to have moments of worship every single day of the week, whether it is on the Shabbat or every day in the mornings at 7:30 a.m. or in the evenings at 6 p.m. And it is such a mitzvah for those who join us and for those who lead us. It is a moment of community and a moment of prayer that breaks up the otherwise hectic days of our lives. So thank you both to Susan and to everybody else who is a part of that. Susan, I also believe that you are a Shiva leader in training, which is a whole mitzvah in and of itself that we will get to in a few moments, but we wanted to acknowledge that as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And for the honor of our second aliyah, we have Isaac Gaon, Yitzhak ben Shlomo, la'aliyah.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Shamor את יום השבת לקדשו, כאשר ציווה אדוני אלוהיך. ששת ימים תעבוד, ועשית כל מלאכתך. ביום השביעי שבת לאדוני אלוהיך. לא תעשה כל מלאכה אתה ובנך וביתך ועבדך ואמתך ושורך וחמורך וכל בהמתך וגרך אשר בשעריך, למען ינוח עבדך ואמתך כמוך. וזכרת כי עבוד היית בארץ מצרים, ויוציאך אדוני אלוהיך משם ביד חזקה ובזרוע נטויה. על כן ציווך אדוני אלוהיך לעשות את יום השבת. כבד את אביך ואת אמך, כאשר ציווך אדוני אלוהיך, למען יאריכון ימיך, ולמען ייטב לך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. לא תרצח ולא תנאף ולא תגנוב ולא תענה ברכה את שווא ולא תחמוד אשת רעך ולא תתהווה בית רעך. שדהו ועבדו ואמתו, שורו וחמורו וכל אשר לרעך.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Isaac, don't run away. Just to say, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah. Blessed is the God who blessed our ancestors and brought us all to this moment together on this Shabbat in honor of Torah and in honor of this special day. My understanding is that you are a visitor to our community, and so welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so glad that you are here. And a fun fact that we learned about you is that you are a composer of Ladino music, which is very, very special. And of course, we are a community who values music and who holds it dear to our hearts. So thank you for coming and sharing with us and for being with us. And we've got a friend that you can make after services who I'm sure wants to hear more, as do the rest of us. So Shabbat Shalom and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And for the honor of the third and final Aliyah today, we have Jeff Levy, Yosef Yaakov, Ben Tzvi, V'Tzivia, and Larry Schwartz, Lipa Fischel, Ben Yaakov Meir, V'Chana, La Aliyah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Et hadvarim ha'ele niber Adonai el kol kechalchem bahar mitoch ha'esh ha'anahan v'arafel kol gedolah velo yasav ויכתבם על שני לוחות אבנים ויתנהם אלי ויהי כשמעכם את הכל מתוך החושך וההר בוער באש ותקרבון אלי כל ראשי שבטיכם וזקניכם ותאמרו הן הרענו אדוני אלוהינו את כבודו ואת גודלו ואת קולו שמענו מתוך האש. היום הזה ראינו כי ידבר אלוהים את האדם וחי. ואתה למה נמות כי תאכלנו האש הגדולה הזאת אם יוספים אנחנו לשמוע את כל אדוני אלוהינו עוד ומתנו כי מכל בשר אשר שמע קול אלוהים חיים מדבר מתוך האש כמונו ויחי כרהבתה ושמע את כל אשר יאמר אדוני אלוהינו ועת תדבר אלינו את כל אשר ידבר אדוני אלוהינו אליך ושמענו ועשינו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And so for all of you, I just want to point out that these last two words that Pavle just read so beautifully, and for anybody who was following along, I hope you also noticed that in everything he read, it was, if you know how to read Torah, you'll know that it was practically perfect in every way. But the last two words of what Pavle just read were v'shemanu ve'asinu. And so for all three of you, I just want to acknowledge that you have heard that call, heard like lishmoa, to hear, and you have that call to action, and you have done, you have, or seh, asinu, you have done. And so Pavle, thank you for hearing the call to read for us so beautifully this morning, and for both Jeff and Larry as Shiva leaders, and for as two people who coordinate all of our leaders for those who are in need of Shiva. Thank you so much for hearing that call and for coming to that action and to fill that need in our community. It's really hard to express the mitzvah that really occurs when you are able to go to someone's home and lead them in services when they are in a time of mourning. And this is Shabbat Nachamu, after all, the Shabbat of comfort, and you both together provide a service that gives an unbelievable amount of comfort to those who need it the most. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as we think of comfort and as we have the Sefer Torah in our midst, we recognize that through healing comes comfort. And we here in Canada are always on that journey to heal and to provide comfort as Jews and as people living here in Canada. As we think about those as we think about the land on which we live and the healing and the comfort that we have a role to play in providing. So we at Holy Blossom Temple acknowledge that we are hosted on the traditional lands of many Indigenous nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, the Ojibwe Chippewa, and the Huron-Wendat people. Under the Dish with One Spoon and Two Row Wampum Belt Covenant, many Indigenous nations agreed to peaceably share and care for the land and welcomed others to do the same. This land is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples from across Turtle Island. We also acknowledge that Toronto itself is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, while understanding that to the signatories of the treaty, not all of those found comfort in such an agreement, and we are challenged to confront that history. We are so grateful for the opportunity to gather on this land and strengthen our community through playing our part in healing and reconciliation and in bringing comfort. And as a Holy Blossom Temple community today, we think of those in our family who are in need of healing on this Shabbat. Including Johanna Folk, Hannah bat Gittel, Sarah Leah bat Moshe Meah v'Naomi, Miriam bat Binyamin v'Sarah Leah, Friedzia Mama, Joel Sears, Sima bat Chaim v'Chaye Sarah, Gittel Yaakova bat Shmuel v'Sarah, Moshe Gershon ben Borach Shalom Chaim v'Ruchel Leah, Ari Solomon Gegel, Akiva ben Lena, Hanoch ben Pinchas v'Esther. And if you would like to share the name of someone that you are thinking of today, as my hands and eyes meet yours, please feel free to share their names out loud or in your heart. Hamisha Berach, our blessing for healing, can be found on page 191.
Berach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Misheberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh Cholim. Blessed are you, O God, who makes hope and healing possible. We rise for the Torah on page 192.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya ra 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 ya ra 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 ya ra 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 ra.
And you may be seated. Being in the 7 weeks of consolation leading up to Rosh Hashanah, it is perhaps not surprising that our Haftarah portion this week opens with the following words: Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. Comfort, oh be comforted, my people, as God switches the tone from retribution to solace. The great Jewish commentator Ibn Ezra of the 12th century picks up on this repetition of the word nachamu and passes it to indicate that the comfort must be ongoing and administered repeatedly over time. I was struck by this insight as I reflected on this idea in the context of the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim, and I'm looking at Bambi, the head of our Bikur Cholim committee. As we recited earlier in our liturgy, and which can be translated literally as visiting the sick, but can also be interpreted as caring for those in times of need. In short, it is the framework for the notion of caring community. In that vein, we learn in rabbinical school that you are not there to solve everyone's problems, but you are there to be a listening ear and a kind voice to our people. In the words of our Haftarah, to be the one who speaks tenderly to the heart of Jerusalem. This is especially true in the wake of Tisha B'Av just last week, which gave us the space to recognize that the world is not an easy place today, with pressures pushing in on all sides, whether that's climate catastrophe, illness, isolation, economic issues, growing inequality, and the list goes on, meaning that we all undoubtedly know someone who is facing a difficult time or a difficult situation. However, yesterday, if you didn't catch it, was actually Tu B'Av, a Jewish Valentine's Day of sorts, but really just an opportunity to express love and affection to the people that we care about. With this idea of comfort in mind, in our Haftarah and at this time in the Jewish calendar, I would then like to suggest that, in line with Ibn Ezra, that repeated consolation, checking in over and over again with our loved ones, is a deep act of love, especially in trying times. As we are taught in the Talmud, Kol Yisrael Aravim Ze Bazeh, all Israel are responsible for one another. And so we begin our Haftarah on page, great question, page 1222, with Jerry Prendergast reading for us from the book of Isaiah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'neviim tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hanamarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah uveMoshe avdo uveYisrael amo uvinviei hamet v'tzedek. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, Yomar Elohechem, Dabru al Lev Yerushalayim, Vikiru Eleha, Ki Malat Sava, Ki Nirtza Avona, Ki lacha me'ad Adonai kiflaim bechol chatoteha. Kol korei bamidbar panu derech Adonai yashru barava misila leloheinu. Kol gei naseh vechol har vegiva ishpalu vehaya heakov lemishor vehachatzim levikah v'nigla kavod Adonai v'ra'u chol basar yachtav ki pi Adonai diber kol omer kira ve'amarma ekra kol basar hatzir ve'chol chasdo ketzitz hasadeh Yavesh chatzir navel tzis ki ruach Adonai nashva bo achein chatzir ham Yavesh chatzir navel tzis udevar Eloheinu yakum leolam al har gavoha alelach mivaseret Zion harimi vakoach kolek mivazeret Yerushalayim harimi al tirai imri larei Yehuda hinei Elohechem hinei Adonai Elohim bechazak yavo uzro mishlalo hine sacharo ito ufulato lefanav kro edro ire bizro yekapetz tilaim ufchecho isa alot yenahel Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sur kol העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Thank you so much, Jerry, for reading those words, that call of Isaiah so beautifully. You might have noticed the root of kara, the call, and now we too hear the call as we rise in anticipation, in hope of God's blessings for our congregation, for our country, and for the state of Israel, on page 195. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless this sacred congregation, all who serve it and those who contribute to its future. May all who seek your presence find it here. Bless the house of Israel in all lands, near and far. Uphold us, shield us from oppression and hatred, and bring to fulfillment the word of Moses, your prophet. The eternal your God will make you 1,000 times as many as you are, and will bless you as promised. And together we say, Amen. We pray for all who serve in positions of leadership and responsibility in our national life. Protect them as they aid and defend your creation. Inspire them to be responsive to your will, so that Canada may be to the world an example of justice and compassion. Deepen our love for our country and our desire to serve it. Cause us to see clearly that the well-being of our nation is in the hands of all its citizens. Keep our homes safe from affliction, war, and strife.
Avinu, Avinu, Sheba Shamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'go'alo. Avinu, Avinu, Sheba Shamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'go'alo. Barech, Barech, Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Gehulatenu, Hagen Alecha Behevran Chastecha, Uferos Alecha Sukat Shelomecha. Avinu, Avinu, Sheba Shamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'go'alo. Avinu, Avinu, Sheba Shamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'go'alo. Yehallelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizkav Shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren le'amo. Tehila lechol chasitam, Livnei Yisrael Amekirovo. Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Etz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomchecha be'oshar derachecha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, Chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Kol hakavod to everyone who participated in our service this morning and chanted beautifully and blessed us beautifully and caused blessings to come down into this congregation. There is a scene in one particular movie, the 1980s classic, The Princess Bride, that comes to my mind this morning. There is a wedding happening, and there is the officiant standing in front of the congregation in a bedazzled robe, a very large hat. He's some kind of a bishop, and he begins his charge, and he says, "Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream." But of course, the joke is all in the delivery. And the officiant has a particularly thick accent, and so it sounds a lot more like this. Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream. I joke, of course, but that is the sentiment that I cannot help but think of this Shabbat, Shabbat Nachamu, Shabbat Ve'et Hanan, and also, of course, the Shabbat which immediately follows Tu B'Av. The Shabbat, perhaps more than any other, is about marriage, and is about love, and is about romance, and the relationship between God and the people of Israel. Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, which fell just yesterday, is the ancient Mishnaic marking of romantic love, described by some, including our own Rabbi McCarroll, as Jewish Valentine's Day. It is actually a bit of an older observance that faded from practice for nearly 2,000 years and was resurrected in the early 20th century. In Mishnah Ta'anit, the rabbis are discussing and remembering the various offerings and fasts and holidays which occurred while the temple still stood in Jerusalem. Some of them have already faded from practice in their own day, while some, like Tisha B'Av, which is not to be confused with Tu B'Av, become codified in that moment and given new significance. And at the very end of the 4th chapter, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel makes a nostalgic statement, and you can almost hear the wistfulness in his voice. There were no days as joyous for the Jewish people as the 15th of Av and as Yom Kippur, as on them the daughters of Jerusalem would go out in borrowed white clothes so as to never embarrass one who did not own her own garments. And the daughters of Jerusalem would go out and they would dance in the vineyards. Which is to say that in the days when the temple stood, all of the young women would go out dressed in white, and the young men would follow behind them, and they would go down to the vineyard, and they would dance, and they would make the matches, the shidduchim, for the year. And when did they do this? Well, on 2 sacred days, apparently on Yom Kippur. As soon as the fast was over, they brought life and joy back into the world, and on Tu B'Av, a day set aside specifically for this ritual. It's a beautiful love scene, a matchmaking ritual, a vision of a pastoral Jerusalem. All of those young people, regardless of wealth or station, dressed in equal beauty, dancing happily as they dream of their romantic future. Tu B'Av is this token of romance, of first blush based on fantasy, fleeting first visions, special moments, joyous dancing. Who will be your match? Could your beshert be right here? You never know. So go down and dance, see and be seen. It's that same youthful idealism that anything is possible if you find the right person, that we actually hear in the first few verses of Fiddler on the Roof's famous, "Matchmaker, oh matchmaker." And of course, once Jerusalem is destroyed, even by the ancient days when Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is still recounting this story, the dancing has ended, and the ritual with it. And Tu B'Av is nothing more than a memory. It's one more thing that's on the calendar that must now be mourned and studied and recalled for one day. But then, of course, one day comes. Naomi Seidman, writing for the foreword, states that the first modern observance of Tu B'Av occurred in the kibbutzim of Mandate Palestine in 1925, as Jews returned to the land, restored the Hebrew calendar to a living observance which matched the cycle it was designed for, and once again, perhaps most importantly, planted vineyards to dance in. She also points out a fascinating aside of a secular Zionist youth movement for girls in Poland, Banos Agudat Yisrael, who similarly restarted Tu B'Av on their very own the very next year. But unlike their cousins living Ba'aretz, this observance was stripped of its romantic overtures altogether, and instead was a feminist, socialist holiday, a day to celebrate Jewish women and Jewish sisterhood, and the dream of egalitarianism amongst women, dressed alike in white without care for wealth. And her description of these young women is still fully dressed in the language of ambitious, idealistic youth, romantic love language, even if there's no longer a paramour. It is still a love language, the love language, sadly, of a doomed generation, enraptured with a cause that they will never see. If Tu B'Av is the observance then of young, romantic, idealistic love, this love that believes that love alone is all you really need to get through, that love conquers all, then this week's Torah portion, Vayet Hanan, is the love of a more steady and mature and worldly vision. Its words are not foreign to you. We recited them already this morning with the words of V'ahavta. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. V'ahavta, then, is love based in covenant. And covenant, of course, is an agreement that we enter into willingly with the knowledge that we are actually in this for the long haul, not just for the burning, bright passion of youth. Several biblical scholars point out that V'ahavta is linguistically remnant of an oath of obedience that a subject might take before a king. Ahava, in this case, might not be read as romantic love at all, but as love that is based in fealty, love that is based in loyalty. You shall be loyal to your God in all ways, in body, mind, and soul. And that is why immediately after this proclamation of love, the Torah continues with the declaration of where shall you put your loyalty? On your arm and on your eye, upon your heart, upon your limb, upon the doorpost of your house, upon your gate. And say it when you get up and say it when you go to sleep. And of course, whenever you go forth. Alternatively, we can read the V'ahavta in its context as part of Moses' grand goodbye speech to the Israelites on the bank of the Jordan River. And here, the plea for loyalty and love are mixed. Yes, be loyal to God, but be loyal out of love. Do not forget all the wonderful things that God has done for you and your ancestors. God has been caring and compassionate, the Redeemer, the Protector, endlessly kind, answering, overturning the greatest empire in the world for your sake. Yes, you should be loyal, but you should also be filled with love. And in the less cited second paragraph of the V'ahavta, the text continues and reminds us that God will continue to shower Israel with blessings as long as we remain in covenantal relationship. Covenantal relationship, then, is the essence of that more seasoned kind of love. A love that acknowledges that we are not in this solely out of attraction, but also because we have done things for each other. We have sacrificed for each other, and we are dedicated to building a better future with each other. As I counsel wedding couples, I often talk to them about how you need to learn to listen and compromise. And that perhaps most importantly, that the vows you make and the words of your ketubah are not vows that you make for your wedding day, but for your marriage as a whole. I also try to remind them that the reason you're getting married today is probably not the reason why you will stay married in the future. In fact, it probably shouldn't be. Your reasons to remain in a loving relationship should only grow over time. Don't just fall in love. Grow in love. The V'ahavta, then, is the sort of love that withstands change and withstands the challenge of life. Which brings us to the Haftarah for this week, Shabbat Nachamu. We begin reading the Haftarot of conciliation this week after the 3 weeks, which included those special Haftarot from Jeremiah and culminated in the recitation of Eicha, Lamentations on Tisha B'Av earlier this week. And as mentioned throughout this lead-up, the words of the prophet Jeremiah use an example of a failed marriage due to one partner's repeated unfaithfulness to represent God's anger and disappointment and hurt in the Israelite kingdoms. Israel plays the harlot, while God is the stunned and loyal spouse who has finally just had enough. My teacher, Rabbi Julie Schwartz of HUC-JAR in Cincinnati, once told us that there is no such thing as a perfectly balanced, equal relationship. No one ever actually achieves the perfect 50-50 split. In all relationships, there will always be one partner that is doing more than the other. But what makes a healthy relationship healthy is three separate factors. The first is that the ratio is not terribly far off. Maybe you're at 49-51, maybe you're at 55-45, or maybe you've just found whatever magic number works for you and yours. The second piece, of course, is that the person who is doing more flips and flops between the partners over time. Sometimes work is very demanding for one, and so the other one steps up and goes above and beyond and is doing more for their partner. Sometimes an emergency arises and you might have months, sometimes even years, where the needs of one person are put above. But eventually we acknowledge that there needs to come a time for a swap, that the other person's needs and desires and wants need to be prioritized. That's the second. And the third, and perhaps the most important, is this, that you do not keep score. Because the score cannot be, and will never be, perfectly even. And if you demand that they be even, and when you fail to live up to that goal, you will lead to a relationship built on resentment. And resentment is what kills love. And you can hear all three of these standards fail in the words of the prophet Jeremiah. 1, Israel simply does not live up to its end of the bargain. 2, God continuously is doing the heavy lifting and is the only one working to keep the relationship going. And 3, that after years and generations of untold moral failure, God resents Israel. And thus, God is done with the relationship. Which is why this week's Haftarah is such a powerful tonal change. Because as if a switch has been flown, as if a switch has been flipped, as we approach the high holidays, God has already forgiven and is ready to welcome us home, assuming that this time we really do mean to be a loyal partner. We really do mean to be fully invested in this relationship. And that too is love. That is the love that understands that not all promises get to be kept. That is the love that understands that not all relationships are easy. And that is the love that understands that there are moments when every one of us will misstep and hurt someone that we love. And while not every relationship goes through unfaithfulness or cheating, every relationship goes through disappointment. And every relationship goes through hurt. And every relationship goes through that feeling of this is unfair. The love then of Shabbat Nachamu is the love which includes acknowledging an imperfect partner. We are not only the impossible first blush of romance we find on Tu B'Av, nor are we only the upheld covenantal ketubah, endlessly growing in love. We are also partners who try and hurt and fail and then try again. And we love anyways. And we are loved anyways. Idealistic love then, from Tu B'Av, covenantal love in the V'ahavta, and the love then of chen, v'chesed, v'rachamim, grace, kindness, and compassion from Shabbat Nachamu. Each of these kinds of love we acknowledge and celebrate today as they come before our eyes. And we are thankful for their existence both in the lives of those we care about, our own personal matters of the heart, and in the life of our people Israel, with its infinite chambers of the heart's duties. I want to close this morning with my favorite Hasidic teaching on the nature of love and the V'ahavta. The master asks, why does the V'ahavta say, place these words upon your heart? Should they not be placed within your heart? What good can words possibly do if they are simply on top of your heart? And he answers his own question saying thus, human beings cannot put things into their own hearts. That's something that only God can do. But there is a time in every human being's life when the heart breaks. And if you have placed those words on top of your heart, then in that moment they will fall in. And when your heart heals, those words of love will still be inside of you. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Comfort, O be comforted, my people. For this is a Shabbat of love in all its forms. Shabbat Shalom. Cantor.
Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. 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 Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
My name is Les Rothschild. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Holy Blossom Temple, and it's my pleasure to welcome fellow congregants and guests, whether in person or online, local or from afar, to Holy Blossom Temple. Yashir Koach to Pavel for chanting the Ten Commandments for us so expertly in such an important Shabbat, and to Jerry for beautifully chanting this important Haftorah too. Toda Rabbah. We thank Rabbi Splansky, Rabbi Kay, Rabbi McCarroll, and Cantor Rosen for leading us. And we also thank our musicians, in plural, for making our service so much more spiritual. Thank you so much. We're grateful to our facility staff and live stream production team for making our services safe and accessible for all. Mazel tov to Josh Lewinberg and Ali Rendali on their wedding on August 14th. Proud parents are Marvin and Florence Lewinberg and Russell and Jane Rendelli. Mazel tov to Nicholas and Danielle Mancini on the naming of their daughters, Maya and Talia. Proud grandparents are Lily and Dominic Mancini and Laura and Gary Siegel. Our condolences go to the mourners among us. We will soon recite the mourners' Kaddish, and your Holy Blossom community will stand with you at this time of loss. May our congregation be a source of strength and comfort for you. We invite you to join us for daily morning and afternoon services and to reach out to our clergy if you need additional support for this challenging time. A couple of upcoming events. One is on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, August 16th, is the first of the games programs sponsored by Dorot in our atrium. It is the first part of something we hope will continue through the whole year. We'll be offering Mahjong lessons for 6 weeks until Rosh Hashanah, specifically starting Tuesday. But there are other games and things that you can do when you come in. Please check the website, and we hope this is a chance for you to come back to the congregation and to our beautiful building slowly. All are welcome to join us before Kabbalat Shabbat services on August 19th next week for an indoor-outdoor wine and cheese, a great opportunity to meet our new rabbis and to get to know each other a little better as well. On August 20th, all are welcome to gather at the home of Daniel Pensiner for Havdalah Under the Stars, a special evening of LGBTQ+ inclusion and socialization. Holy Blossom is bustling as usual. There are all kinds of things either in the works or being done now or being planned in the Early Childhood Center, the Youth Education Center, family engagement, lifelong learning, worship, HBT Together. Details of all of this are on our website, holyblossom.org. And just a reminder that if you have not renewed your membership yet, you don't have to do it today, but maybe tomorrow is the time for you to do that. Shabbat Shalom.
We begin the conclusion of our service with the words of Aleinu on page 200. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינת זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad.
Please be seated, if only for a moment. Today, at this moment, we now turn our hearts to sacred memory. And if you are a mourner among us, I invite you to rise at this time so that our community can stand with you, support you, and acknowledge you. Today, we mark the yahrzeits of the following: Sally Bader, Rose Bernstein, Jenadelle Borden, Harvey Borden, Ada Borinsky, Robert Brody, Ivor Brody, Nathan Brodkin, Florence Brody, Hannah Brookstone, Purdy Crawford, Frank Dolcourt, Bella Eisendrucker, Marilyn Farber, Lillian Farber, Natalie Fine, Samuel Fine, Leo Frankel, Morris Gelman, Sandra Gertner, Greta Glixman, Ronnie Goldstein, Charles Goodman, Joseph Gordon, Eve Gordon, Max Greenholtz, Rebecca Horwitz, Bert Eisman, Syra Kopler, Martha Lebo, Pearl Levitt, Celia Levy, Abraham Levy, Henry Liss, Lucille Laurie, Rachel Lowe, Clara Oberndorfer, Morris Offman, David Palter, Albert Pasternak, Henry Ritchie, Billy Roth, Louis Shirkin, Ann Sherwin, Micheline Slanetsky, Albert Sosno, Maxwell Stark, Katun Yakub. And we recall at this time as well the Shloshim, the lives of those who have died most recently: Clarence Blatt, Barbara Cass Mansfield, Richard Cole, Lily Cinnamon, Eva Dykstein, Eve Ennis, Dorothy Garfin Gilbart, Ned Goodman, Tanny Caden, Loren Credencer, Rabbi Dov Marmer, Melville Olsberg. Are there more names to be added to our memory, our recitation of memory and blessing this morning?
Dame Kay.
Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for an eternal blessing. We rise as one community to recite Kaddish Yatom on page 202. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah. Ba'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lo me'al maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved, amongst us, amongst our people of Israel. And we say together, Amen.
Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru. Amen. We remain standing for Kiddush, page 447. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat lerotam berit olam beini uben b'nei Yisrael oti leolam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat v'yinafash al kein barach Adonai et yom ha-Shabbat ve'yekadshehu savri Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri.
Amen. Oh, what a beautiful Challah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Our closing song, Ein Keloheinu, our Ladino version, page 541. Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu, non como nuestro Dios, non como nuestro Señor, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. Mi Eloheinu, mi Adonenu, mi Malkeinu, mi Moshienu, quien como nuestro Dios, quien como nuestro Señor, quien como nuestro Rey, quien como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu, lo haremos nuestro Dios, lo haremos nuestro Señor, lo haremos nuestro Rey, lo haremos nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Bendicho nuestro Dios, bendicho nuestro Señor, bendicho nuestro Rey, bendicho nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Tú sos nuestro Dios, tú sos nuestro Señor, tú sos nuestro Rey, tú sos nuestro Salvador. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shkoach.
Beautiful music choices today.
Thank you. Great words.
Thank you.
It's